So the topic of this morning is going to be young alumni and their college search experience. So we're very privileged and excited to have four of our favorite members of the class of 2019 coming back to talk to us about their experiences in Beyond CM and what things were like for them. Each of these young men had I would say, a very strong experience working through the Beyond CM program and engaged in their own way that I think has some real, their experience could probably benefit some of the people who are currently in the junior class. We're excited to have them share their stories. With us this morning, we have Jack Mang, who's currently at St. Anselm's, where he is majoring in nursing. Jack was working with me when he was a senior and as a junior. He dove into the process and I really enjoyed working with him. We also have Anthony Consigli, who is currently at BU, where he is majoring in health sciences. Matt Freitas is at Williams, where he is double majoring in poli-sci and history. He is also a member of the lacrosse team there. And then Ben Shipman is joining us. I guess he's not virtually at Duke. He's at home. We're all virtually at home these days. But he is double majoring in international relations and sociology, or focusing on those areas. So everyone, gentlemen, you want to say hi?
How we doing?
Hey guys, pleasure to be here. Excited for it.
I think it is a great testament to our young alumni that we have four college freshmen who are joining a voluntary speaking engagement at 8 a.m. on Zoom. Everyone appears to be showered and well rested and ready to go. So it's, thank heaven for small blessings. Guys, I want to get into a little bit just about what your experience was going through the process, some of the things that you learned or that experience that you could share. And so I don't know if any of you want to open up with this question, but one of the big terms that we talk about is fit. And we keep on talking about finding your fit and what is your fit and finding the college that matches for you. As you think back on your process, how did you identify fit in your college search and how did you ultimately find your fit? And I'll open it up to all four of you guys.
I can start if you guys want me to. So I go to Williams College. It's a small liberal arts school in like the top left corner of Massachusetts. So it's like 3 hours away pretty much from all of us, even though it's in our state. And so obviously there's a ton of different like factors that go into looking at colleges, whether it's like the major, the living conditions, where it is, like everything. But if I had to like boil it down to, I guess, two main things, it's just comfortability and opportunity. So it's a place you're going to spend 4, maybe 5 years of your life. Maybe you'll end up wanting to go to grad school there. It's just, you have to make sure that it's somewhere that you really want to be. And so I have a lot of friends who decided to go to schools just because there's a big party culture there, just because there's a really good major that they want to go into. But when I was looking at schools, it was just really important to me, like, do I want to be there? And so it was the same factors that went into my high school search when I ultimately decided on CM. It's just a place with a culture that I enjoy, a place with solid living conditions, a place that's not necessarily too far from my house, but far enough that I'm not living at home. And then opportunity. It's just a place with strong academics, a place with a major that I'm actually interested in, and not something that it's just like a fallback option because it's a school that I want to go to, and somewhere where I really feel welcome by the faculty, by the other students, and just somewhere that I'm excited to be.
I definitely agree with everything that Matt said. For me, fit was a lot about a feeling that you got when you went. Now, if you asked me where I was going to apply, going into senior year or before I had really toured a lot of schools, I would have told you I was going to apply early decision to Georgetown. Hands down, that's where I wanted to be. I went for a tour. I spent a day there. I looked around. I said, this is absolutely not the place I want to be at all. And I didn't end up applying. And so I really think if you are able, getting on campus is something that helps so much in deciding if you can actually see yourself at the campus or your student. And another big piece of that is then geography in terms of, urban, rural, suburban, kind of what kind of atmosphere you want. For me, I really wanted a college in the city, but I wanted to have the option for some green space and kind of place to explore. And I didn't feel like I could find that at some places, whereas other schools definitely had, green spaces, places to hang out, while also still having easy access to cities. So that was something that I really looked for. And then also, I recommend you look at the course catalog, because yeah, there might be a major that like excites you, but if the classes look really boring, they're probably really boring. And like there's some great courses at Duke, which I feel really like grateful that I have access to, because I'm talking to other people and they're like, wow, your classes are like really specific and weird. I'm like, yeah, they sound really fun to me. And other people, have been like, oh, that'd be a really interesting class to take. And those are all, public resources that you can look at. So I'd recommend, having your student look into them, and just see if there's something that excites them. Because if there is, it's probably a good school.
Yeah, I would say the best way to find fit is just going there. I mean, right now it's not as easy, but after this whole thing is over, for me, I found things I liked about schools that I did not expect to. I'm from Medway, Massachusetts, which is not the city at all, and ended at Boston University, which is in the middle of the city. Never would have expected that. I would have loved that. But, after touring a bunch of schools, I was able to see what I liked and what I didn't like. And, I went to Boston University and, I saw the T running right through the center of campus. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And now being there, having the access to go wherever I want in the city is really cool. So I think the best way to find your fit is to look at different schools, and then you can see the elements that you like of the different schools.
If I was a junior right now and you asked me like what fit I wanted, I mean, that's kind of like a big thing to understand for the next 6 years of your life. Like, I mean, a lot has to go into that decision. For me, I wanted somewhere I loved CM going there. That was the best 4 years so far of my life. And I wanted something a lot like that. Small community, smaller classes. And also I'm majoring in nursing, which is kind of tough because you would think that there are a lot of nursing schools, but they're spread out. And if you want to stay in Massachusetts, then you really only have 10, 15 options, or if you want to stay in New England, I mean. So I chose St. A's because it has 2,000 kids, which is comparable to CM. So my grade at St. A's is about the size of CM's high school, which I thought was good because it's a small community and that's what I was used to. I also get to play golf there, which is nice. I wasn't expecting that, but it happened, and it's made my life so much better, and it's a good release. And everything is all the chips kind of just fell in the right places for me. Like Ben said, you got to visit. I went up there probably 4 or 5 times before I ended up committing to go there. And I just loved the campus every single time I went, even more and more. So yeah, I'd say that's a really important part.
I think you all bring up really interesting aspects of fit, and the frustrating thing facing all of our juniors right now is that feeling of, oh, I'm going to fall in love with a place when I step on campus, or I'm going to walk around and I'm just going to see myself there, and that comfort factor that each of you touched on. And as you kind of reflect now on your experience, if they can't do that, you've probably all experienced something during your freshman year that maybe it was in a brochure, but you didn't really focus on that line at the time, or there was something about, like, now you see the language in the way that a school might talk about itself. Are there things that you wish you had emphasized more in your college search, or that you wish oh, now I see how, St. A's has that community and how it matches with, the information that they have about it, or how Duke engages its students and how they talk about it? Is there something that you wish you had emphasized more now that you see it on the campus where you are?
I can start for this one. I'm going to go back to it. Location. For me, like I said, I wanted more of a city school. And Duke, while it is in the heart of Durham, Duke is Durham. And so when they said downtown is just down the street, which it is, but it's definitely not the city that, I'd kind of expected. And I mean, I love it, don't get me wrong. But I do wish that while I was touring Duke, because that was important to me, I did go and look around at the city to kind of get a better understanding of what that would look like. And then also with that too, if there's extracurricular activities that, that you need certain weather for, like if you love to ski, and that's something you really like to do, then you should go somewhere that you have that available to you, because there's plenty of schools there. And I know it seems like a little side thing, but if that's something that makes you really, really happy, prioritize that. And I mean, just making sure that you can do things through school, because all these schools will have the clubs to take you wherever you want to go. Like, make sure that you have things that you can do to, like, outside of academics, to make you feel personally fulfilled. And then my last thought on this is, if your student has any inclination of thinking they might want to look at schools abroad, whether in Canada or the UK or like anywhere at all, have them look into it online. If they really like it, send an application, really look into it, because I know that I've talked to a lot of people who said, I really wish that I looked abroad more, whether at Duke or at other places, because there's so many places that are so much closer than they really feel. And also a lot of international programs are significantly cheaper. And so it's definitely something to consider.
For me, I think that something at St. A's that I never really appreciated when I was applying there was like the little traditions that go on around campus. The school's pretty old. I'm not sure how, I think over 200 years old. And when you first go there, your first weekend there as a freshman, there are these flags in the cafeteria. And the cafeteria is probably like twice the size of CM's. I mean, it's not that much bigger than CM's is. So it's like all the freshman class gets in there and it's packed. And there are these huge flags that get raised into the rafters of the cafeteria with our grad years on them. And every year they like move over a spot. And I knew about it, but at first I was like, oh, that's cool. Like they raised the flag or whatever. But like you're there and like your flag is raising and your orientation leaders who are seniors are watching their flag come down and like crying. And it's like, wow, like this is going to be like crazy. And you have no idea as a freshman going in. You're like, oh, like that's cool, like whatever. But then you see it happen and you're like, wow, this is a huge deal. Another thing like that is the Christmas feast we have every year. It's a Catholic school. I don't know if I said that. St. A's is Catholic. Every year, the day before we leave for break, there's a Christmas feast. It's like a $15 ticket or whatever, and everyone gets dressed up super nice. Almost the whole school goes, and it's just the most amazing food ever. And you just sit there and eat for an hour, and then everyone gets dressed up real nice. And it's just a great way to send off kind of the first semester during finals week, and it kind of makes everyone feel good. And those are things that I guess I knew about, but I never really understood until you're in it. And I just honestly cannot wait for Christmas feast next year. I mean, I think about that like every week. Like that's just going to be so good. But yeah, I mean, just the little traditions that that schools have in general.
Yeah, so I guess for me, when you're looking at colleges, you're really looking forward to the next couple of years. And you don't really look that much into what they'll provide you for the years afterwards. But since getting to Williams, I've realized that the alumni network and like the Center for Career Exploration, it's all just amazing opportunities and just great people who are ready to help you out with anything that you need help with. And so in just my freshman year, I've already, we have this thing called ETH-Link. Our mascot's an ETH, which sounds kind of stupid saying out loud, but it's an ETH, purple cows. But ETH-Link is it's a big alumni network. CM just started a similar one called Alumni Fire as well. But so you can just reach out to any alumni from Williams, and they're just there to offer you career advice, help you find internships, just chat if you want to learn about different courses that they took to help get them where they are. And so I just thought it's a really cool experience, really cool opportunities, being able to just reach out to some random Norwegian grad student at Harvard telling me about how he was a double major in poli-sci and history like I was. And so when you're looking at schools or when your kids are looking at schools, it's just, there are tons of opportunities that you're not really going to be looking at in the actual application process that you're going to learn about once you actually get there. And so like the Center for Career Exploration, outside of just helping with ETH-Link and getting you in touch with alumni, they also bring a lot of alumni in and onto campus to give talks. So we've heard talks from different like college professors, from different business leaders, emergency response leaders. We have one alumni who was on The Bachelor, and he came and spoke to us. It was kind of hilarious. But it's just tons and tons and tons of different opportunities, and you get to hear different talks. So I would definitely say at least it's worth a glance to look at the alumni network, look at the career opportunities and internship opportunities that the school is going to be bringing your kids.
Yeah, I think I would say one thing that I didn't really realize about BU until going there was the sense of community. Community is such a big thing that we have at CM that I almost wasn't really expecting at BU because it's so much bigger than CM is. But I think the thing about being at a big school is not that community is not automatically offered, but it's more something you have to seek out. So at BU, I'm in the honors college and living in the honors college dorm, and the size of the freshman honors college is about the size of CM's class. So that kind of provided me with a little bit of community, but you also notice like the little community that you make with the friends that you have, and you know, the different people who are interested in the same things, whether they're taking classes with you or in any same clubs or organizations as you. And the thing that I didn't realize, because you know, BU definitely emphasizes like opportunity, being in a city, which is all things that I have found to be true about BU, and the things that they politicize are definitely things that, you know, I've found true since being there. But something that they don't really talk about is the community. And I didn't really think I was going to get that as much because it's such a big school. But the difference is you kind of have to like make your own community in such a big school, and it's not particularly provided for you.
Yeah, thank you all for that. And I think you each hit on a different aspect of some of those things that you can find in the search. And I think in a lot of ways that reflects on who you are as a person. And as these families are having conversations with their sons, and for the parents who are here today, you know, really, okay, well, these are a couple of the things that college is offer. Which of these things matters more to you? And then let's look for those things and how they're articulated or described. That, you know, sometimes you can have that magic, okay, I walk on campus and I feel that comfort, but okay, like let's look for the things that they say they do. If we do have to, you know, shrink our list of schools that we can visit or just target a few when it's available, you can sort of maximize those. And as we're talking about the way that families can, you know, parents can support their sons, and, you know, obviously you all went through it as students. If you were to give some advice to some of the parents here, what did you and your family do that you thought was effective in your college search, that was helpful and supportive and it felt like everyone was working together? And were there any of those moments that if you could do it all again, you would do one aspect differently than before if you were working together as a family in that process again?
Yeah, so at least for me, I'm coming from a family with divorced parents. So it was kind of two different like sides that I had to like talk to about this college process. And it's two sides that were working completely separately. And so it's just really important to focus on communication, and not even like working with them to figure out where they want me to go, but just letting them know what I'm thinking. And so when I ultimately decided on Williams, I had only seen it with my dad, and my mom hadn't been on campus. So it was definitely a big kind of like leap of faith for her to even just like be okay with me deciding on this school. But what I think is really important in that process is that this is the first time that these kids are like moving on their own or finding their own place to live, technically. And it's just their first real big step into adulthood. So what made me really happy in the college process is that my mom, even though she had never seen Williams, she'd only ever heard about me talking about it, which is funny because I didn't even know Williams existed until my junior year of high school. That it's a college process for the student. And I think that's really important. It's a weird thing to say. And I think the biggest thing for a parent to do in this college process is provide advice, to provide communication, provide support, and just be that helping hand. But it's really important to remember that it is the kid who's going to college.
Yeah, so when I was looking at schools, what me and my mom works Monday through Thursday, doesn't work Friday. So during the summer, we toured one or two schools every week. And then we would like go out to lunch and like talk about it, which was nice. But what I didn't notice until she told me afterwards is after we saw every school, she let me talk about it before she gave her input as to not like influence my decision at all. And that was really helpful because, you know, she wanted me to form my own opinions about it. And then in the whole college process, my parents were not really hands off, but they kind of let me take control over it. They trusted that I would do everything I needed to do. I'm also the youngest of four, so they kind of knew that they had gone through this 3 other times. So it was really nice to have them just trust me and let me do what I needed to do. And, you know, they knew that I would get everything done. It was basically like I was applying to schools and I like sent my dad my list and I was like, here, you need to pay these application fees. But yeah, it was really nice. I agree with Matt. It's the college process for the student. And my parents were also helpful when I needed them, but kind of put their trust in me and let me do what I needed to do.
I'll hop in. For me, I mean, I'm so stubborn and like very like to do things my way. So, you know, involving my parents in the process was something I was very hesitant to do, but like obviously I knew I had to, and I was like, okay, let's figure this out. But like I said, I was super hesitant to like let my parents read my essays and stuff like that because, you know, your essays and your supplements for when you're applying are pretty vulnerable. They're like your own real opinions, and whether or not you're getting super deep into your, you know, life story or whatever, it's still your own, you know, kind of academic professional thinking, which is not the relationship that most kids have with their parents. And so it's weird to kind of, you know, like, put that in front of them and, you know, lean into the hesitation a little bit and like let the student kind of guide that process. You can say, listen, we're going to need to read these, but, you know, understand the apprehension that comes with it. And that involves knowing your student. For me, I'm super planned out. Like I had a plan A, B, C, and D. And so for me, like my Google Calendar was like so full with stuff that didn't even matter, but to me it was important. And so, you know, if we could set a time with me and my parents and be like, okay, after dinner, 8 p.m., we're going to sit down for a half hour and talk about this essay. For me, that's what worked best. I like meetings. I like things very planned. And that way, you know, it helped me, you know, put it into my own terms in the sense that I could have it in my schedule and I could kind of, you know, accept that, okay, this is when I'm going to hand over this work. And so that's what really worked well for me. And I think it's just, you know, kind of asking your student, how can we best support you in this? Because I think when it feels the other way around, that it can be, you know, it can turn into something way more stressful and way more frustrating than it needs to be.
I would consider myself quite the opposite of Ben. Just, I mean, in a lot of ways, we're very different, but like I'm very like free flowing and like, you know, whatever happens, happens. Like it's not a big deal. Like I was on the campus of like UMass with I don't know how many kids they have. It's a lot. I was in the city. I was in like New Hampshire, in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I was everywhere, and I was like, yeah, I can see myself here. You know, yeah, I get along with people. I mean, you know, and it was I imagine very frustrating for my parents, just like going all over Hell's Half Acre trying to find something where like get a little bit more of a reaction. It's like, no, like I really liked it. Like I think this is great, but and I'm sure that's frustrating as a parent, but like Ben said, my mom and I kind of did like weekly meetings where she would just like demand my 100% attention for like an hour every week. And it was good for me because it was scheduled, and it was not like I normally do things. So it was a good time, and my brain was kind of programmed like, okay, it's Tuesday, like we have to do the college talk, like is my like Common App up to date, like all this stuff, which was very helpful. And I don't think I wouldn't have been able to do it by myself. I really wouldn't have. I would have waited until the last second. And she was just such a support through that. And I don't know if your student is like me or like Ben. I mean, I can imagine having a kid like Ben's a little bit easier than having a kid like me. But just being that extra leg helps a lot.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, Jack, and I say, like, I think there's probably a lot more parents here who have students like Jack Mang than the Ben Shipmans, and that, like, Ben, Anthony, and Matt, all of you were talking, and it's like, oh my gosh, this free flowing. I'm guiding my own process, and that's great. And that's one situation. I think, what Jack was describing in terms, some of our guys need that. You have a weekly check-in. We're going to spend half an hour on Tuesday nights. This is when we're going to talk about it. And then it's just sort of okay, this is when we talk about, and we back away the rest of the time, and we'll all try to have the same set of expectations. If your son has a Google Calendar like Ben's, I think you should high five everyone around you and count your lucky stars.
I did not start that until this year. And it's just all in my head, a clutter of thoughts, things that I thought I had. But
yeah, that's awesome. And as we're thinking about the team around you guys, and so we're talking about parent communication, and then obviously another key person in the team is the counselor that you worked with. Like I said earlier, Jack worked with me when he was a senior. Ben, Anthony, and Matt all worked with Ms. Kaplan, who's also on the call. Could each of you talk a little bit about how did your counselor help you through the search process, through the application process? As you're thinking about the current juniors and their families here, like, what advice would you give them about, that relationship and moving forward over the next, year or so?
I can start this one off if you want. I'll say some nice things.
Yeah, just be kind to me, Jack.
Yeah. So like Matt said, he never heard of Williams until his junior year. I had heard of St. A's, but it was kind of like a whatever thing for me. Like, I just knew like a kid that went there. And when I wanted, at the end of my sophomore year, I decided that I wanted to major in nursing, which is early, but I was really confident for some reason. I like to make bold decisions without any rationale. That's kind of my thing. But so the more and more I was looking into, into the system, I saw that, like I said before, that there weren't a lot of nursing schools, and that Mr. O'Keefe had kept saying St. A's. So I looked it up, and it's like, wow, like this place is awesome. But you kind of don't appreciate the knowledge base that the counselors have. I mean, they know about everything. And Mr. Shell, who's kind of like, I don't know what to call him, like the token of CM's Beyond CM situation. He knows about like every school, like Southern Nevada State. Like, he'll tell you what the available majors are, and they're all the guidance counselors are like that, and their knowledge. And if you don't want to go to like a UMass or something like that, like something that everyone knows about, I think that was invaluable for me, because I never would have found St. A's without him. And I love it at St. A's. It's been the best year so far, and it's just awesome. And I have everything to thank to Mr. O'Keefe for that.
Yeah, so for me, I had 3 different guidance counselors in 4 years. I was lucky enough to have Ms. Kaplan my senior year, which was awesome. But it was definitely a weird situation, because with a guidance counselor, when you're eventually like actually applying to a college, you need that letter of rec that comes from your guidance counselor. And so first of all, the one constant noise I had in my ear through the 4 years of college was like a Mr. Shell whisper of small liberal arts college. Which I didn't really know what it meant the first time he told me that. I'm glad I know what it means now, because I couldn't see myself anywhere else but Williams. But he was very big on pushing me to like a NESCAC school, to like a Washington and Lee type school. So it was just great to have him in my ear. But otherwise, with my guidance counselors, all 3 helped me in very different ways. So like Miss White, I forget if she was freshman and sophomore or just freshman year, but Miss White was fantastic in terms of just setting me up for high school, making sure I understood what it meant to take different classes, getting my extracurriculars in order, so when I eventually applied to school, I was ready. And then Mr. Foley was great on refining everything. And so he's probably the one I worked with most in terms of which school I wanted to go to. So because I play lacrosse, I actually committed to Williams the summer before senior year. So it was before I had ever met Miss White. I already knew where I was going to college. Not Miss White, sorry, Miss Kaplan. I already knew where I was going to college. And so Mr. Foley was great in just like refining resumes, helping me figure out what I liked in a school, and figuring out that I really wanted this like small school atmosphere. And then senior year comes around, and going into it, I'm just like, oh, I already know where I'm going to college. Like, it's fine. Like, I don't really need a guidance counselor anymore. And then the first couple of days, I started talking to Miss Kaplan, just like when I had those like mandatory senior appointments, and found out she was a very nice woman, and I was very happy she was my guidance counselor. But what was really important to me at that time was building a relationship with her. So one, she could write me that letter of rec, which is just important in your college search and your applications. Other than that, it just gave me another like relationship to help me on that search, help refine, like, was Williams really what I wanted? Like, am I just making this decision because I get the chance to play lacrosse at a good lacrosse school? And so she really helped me like figure that out, hash it out. And then even when it came to figuring out what I wanted to take, what I wanted to major in, she was just a huge help in that.
Just to jump in, Matt, you made my job very easy. I think we probably sat down the first week of school and I took notes on your whole life story. And I think I probably had to write you a letter. Maybe you're my first letter I wrote in September. So we definitely became fast friends. But I mean, you were so easy. You already had your whole stuff planned out. So
I think he was your first letter. I think you came in and it was like, oh, by the way, write a letter for Matt Freitas today.
Yeah, it was either you or Brendon Berry. I can't remember. One of you guys.
We are very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, now for someone who didn't make Mr. Kaplan's job very easy, like Matt, I had 3 different guidance counselors at CM. So having a new guidance counselor going into senior year when you're like figuring all the college stuff out was very nerve-wracking. Luckily, that guidance counselor was Ms. Kaplan. She will probably tell you that I spent more time in her office than anybody else. Maybe not Ben, but I was in there maybe almost almost every day, which isn't necessary, but like I think the biggest piece of advice I would say is form a relationship with your guidance counselor, because I mean your students are hopefully luckier in the fact that they already know their guidance counselor a little bit. But I think forming that relationship was really helpful. And I mean, you don't need to be there every single day, but definitely, that relationship with your guidance counselor is so valuable because, like Jack said, they know so much about college. And if they know about college and they know so much about you, it's easy for them to help you and guide you in the way that, to somewhere where you're going to like, and that somewhere that is going to be that good fit for you. So yeah, definitely, I think we're lucky here at CM2 and talking with my friends at school. I remember like me and Ms. Kaplan grabbed coffee one time and my friends at school were like, you talked to your guidance counselor? Like, I don't think I ever talked to my guidance counselor in high school, like at all. And I think that's one thing that sets CM apart is that, we have these amazing guidance counselors. So like utilize them. They're there for a reason. So form relationships with them because they're super helpful.
I think another thing just to pop in about that, I think a lot of students sometimes think you have to make a formal appointment to come see your guidance counselor. And Anthony certainly never did that. And I don't think Ben or Matt, you did either. And I just want you to know that like our door's always open and it doesn't have to feel like if you just want to pop in and say hello, or you just have a quick question, like don't be afraid to just come to our office and chat, or you just want to share some good news. Like we're always excited to talk to you guys.
Yeah. I mean, like Anthony said, he and I are the polar opposites of Matt in the sense that we made Miss Kaplan's job very interesting. I will say, I won't say difficult. I'll just say, something special.
Difficult.
Yeah. But the whole guidance team is there for the students. I would go to Miss Kaplan, I'd go to Mr. O'Keefe, I'd go to Mr. Bonnell, who was there last year. I would go to Mr. Shell sometimes, and it's just, they're all there for you, really everyone. And if you go into the office and you just have like a quick question, or I would do this a lot, I would be like, oh my God, I'm struggling with this one sentence on my essay, it sounds wrong. I'd go, and if Miss Kaplan wasn't there, I'd knock on Mr. Bonnell's door and be like, hey, because his office was like the next one over, and just ask him, because they're all there to support all the students, and they're very nice people. Like, get to know them, stop in, go in, annoy them, show them what music you're listening to. I know me and Miss Kaplan, I'd go in and be like, new album came out last night. You want to hear it? Like, not really. I have work to do. And I'd be like, no, it's great. Definitely want to hear this. But yeah, they definitely like help you get the most out of at least, the college process, but also your CM process, because, they can connect you to stuff, teachers within CM that maybe went to a school you're looking into and you have questions, or someone who studied this or majored in this that also works at CM, maybe doing something completely different that like you wouldn't expect, but you just want to know, like, okay, would I like to do this? And it's not scary. When I was little, I had an irrational fear of the nurse's office, and the guidance office is nothing like that. So I would very much recommend going to check them out.
I appreciate that. And just to sort of like address what came up with 3 different points in that conversation, like none of us are going anywhere next year. So like that experience of changing a guidance counselor, unless one of us has an unfortunate accident with a bus in the middle of quarantine, we're all planning on being back. And so that's one less thing to worry about, I would say, for everyone.
Mr. O'Keefe, if that happens, I know a guy to help you out.
I got a bus guy. I'll call my bus guy in. This is a little bit of I do want to leave it open for parent questions in a couple minutes. So maybe one last topic to address. Jack and Matt, you're both playing college sports, or at least you were slated to before college sports got canceled in the spring. Could you share any of your experiences about that recruiting process? Matt, you committed before your senior year. Jack, you had a very different experience with the golf coach at St. A's. Could you talk a little bit about what that process was like and what it's like playing sports in college?
Yeah, so, well, I play lacrosse at Williams. I'm a goalie. We only had a couple of games before our season was canceled this year, which was a big bummer. But we're technically undefeated, so it works out. But so when you're looking at the college process in terms of athletics, the biggest thing to remember is that it's still the college process, and that you're not signing with an NFL team like just to make money and play. You have to remember that when you're looking at these colleges, you're going there primarily to learn, get a degree, and then get a job. So when you're looking at your choices, if you have the chance to go to some big Pac-12 school where the academics aren't amazing, unless you're somebody who's going to go play pro sports afterwards, maybe look at the other options like the NESCACs of the world, where, yeah, it's D3 and you might not get the fame that you're going to get from playing a Division I sport, but you're going to get a great degree. So that was really big for me, is just looking at the academic sides of things. But when you're actually looking at the process of playing a sport in college, it's really important. Communicate with the coach, tell him what you're thinking, make sure that you both have a mutual understanding of which school is at the top of my list. Like, so one of the other schools that I was talking to was Bowdoin. It's a fantastic school. It's very similar to Williams. And so for a while, Bowdoin was my top school. Because at that point, I'd still never been to Williams. I went to Williams because I just wanted to say I went on another college visit, not because I had any real interest in the school. And then when I got there, I was like, nice. So after I figured out that Williams was my top school, I had been clear in telling the Bowdoin coach, like, yeah, this is where I want to be. I immediately called him and I was like, hey, coach, I just want to say I still really love Bowdoin, but I think Williams is at the top of my list right now. And if I get offered, I'm going to take it from Williams. I just wanted to be clear with you so you can look at other goalies as well. And so he was very nice about it. Coaches aren't going to freak out if you tell them that. And I think that's just really important. And then just about the whole process. So at CM, I wrestled for 4 years as well as playing lacrosse. Hi, Orups. I see you guys there. But I definitely really miss wrestling. And I think any athlete in high school, somebody who really takes their sport seriously, once they get to college, if they're not playing it, you're going to miss it, even if it's not your top sport. So when you're talking to your kids about figuring out what they want to do in college, keep that in mind, that maybe they could try and look to play a varsity sport like an NCAA sport in college. Maybe they can try and look to play club that plays against other schools, or even just intramurals where they play against other people at their own school. A chance to keep going with sports. It's a great stress reliever when you get to college. Williams gives you a lot of homework. I have a lot of work every night, but it's great doing my homework, leaving, going to practice, and just completely forgetting about anything academic for a bit and just hanging out with my boys, playing my sport. And then later that night, I can go back to doing homework. It's a great stress reliever, and whether that's varsity, intramural club, whatever, the chance to do that is great. And so when your kids get to college, I would say, I recommend picking up at least an intramural sport, something that will just give them a nice stress reliever while they're there.
Yeah, obviously, Matt had a I'm not going to say very traditional recruiting process, but it was more traditional
It was very traditional.
Yeah. You get the point. My athletics career in general, let me start at the beginning. I was never, I mean, I played varsity sports in high school. I was never like the standout. I was never like the front page of the newspaper. You know what I mean? So like, it wasn't a big deal. Like I'm not going to say I played to just put it on the college application, but like I didn't have fun playing like lacrosse my senior year. It was kind of like, oh, like I'm going to do this. Yeah, Matt, like I was on Matt's team senior year, and I just sat on the sideline the whole time, which is fine. I'm not salty.
I had fun hanging out with you.
I know I had fun hanging out with Matt too. But I'm just saying that, and how my story went basically is that I had applied to St. A's and gotten in, and I said, what is it, in May, like everyone else, I said I was going to St. A's. And then I was like, I play golf, and I was like in high school, I played golf. Like I'm going to email this coach. Like I'm just going to see what happens. And I was honestly bored one day. My mom was like, you should email that coach. And I was like, okay, Mom. It's like, yeah, I'll email the Division II golf coach, and he'll never respond to me. That's cool. Like I emailed him, like 15 minutes later, he's back to me. He's like, yeah, he's like, send me a video of your swing. Like tell me any tournaments you're playing in this like summer, like or spring and summer. Like I'll come see you. And I was like, oh, cool. Like I'm playing in this tournament next week, and like here's a video of my swing or whatever. Goes and watches me. I meet him 3 weeks later. He gives me a phone call. He's like, yeah, if you want to come play here, you can totally come play here. And I was like, okay. And it's like, I get like $4,000 or something along with like merit aid to play golf at a school that I love. And it's like, nothing's better than like going to like an early class and having lunch and then just driving to a golf course and just playing golf for 4 hours and then going back to your dorm and getting homework done. I mean, it's perfect to break up the day. Like Matt said. And then also when you go to campus and you play sports, or even like club sports and intramural sports, like that is the best way to make friends, because you're in a competitive environment with one another, and I believe that it brings out the best in people. I didn't mean to say about the lacrosse scene. A huge part was just because of Matt being there. But yeah, I think that it's been great for me. It's been great for me, and it's just like an extra little drive in the morning, you know what I mean, to get your day going, take things a bit more seriously. It's good. So.
And I do want to jump in for one more second on this one.
Absolutely.
My parents had a big concern about me playing sports in college because they thought it would take up too much of my time compared to me focusing on my academics, which is a valid concern when you're looking at it. But I do want to say, like college sports bring you a couple of things, and one, it's a built-in study group because you're all going to want to keep each other's grades up, so everyone's still eligible to play. So that's huge if I'm taking a class with one other of my teammates, and that's just automatically somebody that I know I can study with. Most programs have academic advisors with their teams, and coaches will make mandatory study hall hours to make sure everybody's getting their work done. And so that really helps in like scheduling your day. And at least in my couple of weeks of actually having a season, I felt I was a lot more scheduled in my spring semester than I was in my fall, because I knew I had like that like 3 to 4 hour slot in the day where it was focused on lacrosse. So I had to get my work done earlier, so I wasn't staying up as late at night, so I still got good sleep. So it really just helps me out with scheduling, if anything, even though it takes up that time. Like, yes, I might be doing homework a little bit later during the spring, but it's a lot more scheduled. It's a lot more strict, and I'm certain I get everything done when I'm in season.
And I think something to add, Jack's experience is obviously pretty untraditional that, you know, you get into a school and then all of a sudden 2 weeks later you're playing Division II golf. Like, I don't think anyone should like count on that experience. It's sort of like a needle in a stack of needles. But what I would say is Matt brought up the like club sports experience. If your son is a high school varsity athlete, college sports aren't really in the picture. At a lot of schools, club sports look a lot like high school varsity sports, where you still practice multiple times, you play against other schools. Like, if you don't get recruited, but you know, a school is a total match and you still want to have that competitive outlet, club sports could be a great kind of in-between option for, okay, it's still competitive, they've got uniforms and everything, they play, you know, that sort of like intramurals, club sports, and then the, you know, Division I, II, or III athletics is the way that we would break that down. We do have about 10 minutes left. If we have any Tarrant questions, something we didn't cover today that you were kind of hoping you would hear, you can put in the chat box, or if you want to raise your hand and say something out loud, our young alumni would love to hear from you.
Hi everyone, this is Anna Sanchez. Thank you so much for spending time with us today and telling us about your experience. I was wondering if you have some thoughts about how have your schools adapted to the current situation. I wonder if bigger schools have more capabilities and are more quick or adaptable, or if you have had a good experience even in a smaller school.
I can start this one off if we want. Obviously the whole situation isn't good for anyone, and obviously we wanted to spend the last half of our second semesters as freshmen on campus, because I think we all, I don't want to speak for anyone, but I think we all just absolutely love it at school. How my school did it was it was scheduled in a way that was very I'm looking for the word, very good. It was not a good word, but good. It was good. On a Monday, they said, okay, look, on Friday by 3 p.m., everyone has to be out on the Monday before. So that was nice. I mean, some schools that I was hearing about was like, you had 12 hours to get out. Like, once they pulled the trigger, I mean, you had 12 hours because they waited until it got so bad. But we were very like laid back. Like, I had all week to pack, but I know a lot of kids weren't like that. In terms of like payment, I can't speak for anyone else again, but for my school, what they did was they basically just went day by day and like did the division and then credited. If you're going to St. A's next year, like I'm going to be a sophomore next year, obviously. So the ending, like the bit of my tuition that was left is just being credited to next year, which is nice. And I know a lot of schools aren't like that. And then our meal plan that we had to pay for is also being credited. So we're not, and then for seniors, it's just getting refunded. So, I mean, obviously that's super nice. I don't know if anyone else is like that, but I just wanted to speak first because my school, I think, did a great job in that department. And the online school I've had up until this point has been great.
Yeah. So my school is pretty similar to Jack's. It's another, I mean, we definitely go to the two smallest schools out of the four of us here. So it makes sense that our situation is pretty similar. But my school told us on a Wednesday, you have to be out by next Tuesday. We were able to get money back on our semester, and we had the choice of either crediting it for next year or getting it back as like direct deposit into our checking account, which was nice to have that option and that flexibility there, especially because like a lot of students, like internships and jobs were canceled for over the summer. So the fact that they were like cool with just like giving us the money back so we still have money for the summer is pretty great. But then in terms of classes, all my professors, they were great in like adjusting to that online lifestyle. The workload has definitely changed. Our focus is in very different things. So I take Chinese at Williams. So it's definitely interesting to take Chinese online. I'm not gonna lie. because it's just such a conversational class. And even though we can still talk like we are now over Zoom, it's not the same as being able to just have a free-flowing conversation at school. So it's definitely a weird situation for foreign languages, but overall, the professors are very understanding. They've done a great job. And like individually, professor by professor, like they really care about the students, and they understand that this is a tough situation for us because it's also a tough situation for them. And so all my classes are pass fail. They're still asking us to put our normal, like full effort into these classes, but they understand if there's a day where it's like, okay, I get it. You have a lot of other work to do because you're just sitting at home. So.
Yeah, I'll hop in next. I go to like a mid-sized school. Duke has a little over 6,000 undergrad, which surprises a lot of people. Some people think it's a lot bigger, but Duke's response has been quite controversial, I would say, within the Duke undergrad community. A lot of Duke students are very politically engaged and politically active. And so they like to make change.org petitions and send them in their group chats to try to influence administration's decisions. And honestly, a lot of them have worked. And so that happened with policies surrounding housing and moving out. That happened with grading policies, and that also happened with letting international students continue to live on campus. So we were in a bit of a pinch because when coronavirus really grabbed the US's attention, and at least higher ed's attention, we were on spring break. And so I actually was away from school. I was visiting another CM graduate at his school, and it was Tuesday of my spring break, and I got an email from Duke saying that the rest of the semester would continue online. But they said that you could come and get your stuff and move out and blah, 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 and it would be fine. And then on Wednesday, I got another email that said you could not move out and you would lose access to your dorm by that Sunday at midnight. And then we got another email on Thursday saying you could petition to stay on campus. So there's obviously so much uncertainty with it. And things change fast. Now, granted, other than housing, which has been a big issue because we were on spring break and a lot of kids didn't get to plan to bring home clothes for like going home for an extended period of time, or other, valuables or stuff that they wanted in their dorm room. Duke has handled it, I think, as well as they can. We had a pass-fail grading policy in which you could opt in for grades. So you could choose the classes that you wanted to get a grade in. And a lot of the professors have been really understanding. And those professors that have not been have felt the student pushback. And if students are complaining and petitioning and talking to deans, those professors have been talked to. I know one of my friends is an engineering student, and she was supposed to have this piece of technology, and he told them to go buy it. And kids in her class complained, and the professor then made their final optional and had stuff sent to their house. So like, it's definitely been interesting to see how students have come together during this to kind of, push for student, the things the students really need.
Yeah, I would say at BU, probably the largest of these four schools. It's been kind of similar to what Ben was saying. There's been a lot of student like change.orgs, and the student's voice has definitely been heard. Again, like Ben, we were on spring break when this all happened, all this happened, and we were just told like, don't come back if you can. But we had the option to, they're packing our stuff or sending it back to us. We are not getting tuition refunded, but we're getting like housing and room and board refunds or credits towards next year. And the transition online has been difficult, but I think a lot of professors are handling it really well, making it as accessible to us as they can while still trying to teach us. And we also have a really good grading policy now where you can see your grades before you opt to make your classes pass fail, which is really helpful for this time. But yeah, I think similar to Duke, BU has been really good at listening to what the students want and trying to accommodate that as best as they can.
Awesome. And I think we have about 3 minutes left, and so I appreciate everyone. I do want to try to get maybe in like a lightning round type of way with that last question in the chat box. How many schools did you end up applying to, and were you more focused on a few schools? Did you send out a lot, like I'm going to apply to as many as I can and then make my decision then, or were you more focused in the fall?
I think I ended up applying to about 12 schools. I did do early decision and I did a lot early action. I very much wanted to front load my senior year. But yeah, I would say 12 was a little much, but I also really had no idea what I wanted and just had an idea that I wanted everything.
Yep.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, like I said, I committed before senior year, so I actually only applied to one school, which is definitely nice. I'm gonna be honest, seeing a lot of my friends apply to like up to 20 schools. But before, when I was looking at colleges through like the recruiting process, I was probably up to like 10 coaches that I was talking to at once.
Mm-hmm.
I think I ended up applying to 9. And it was just, I mostly applied to schools that I already looked at. So I kind of knew what I wanted. So I had already seen it before I applied to it.
I applied to 6 schools. And it's funny because I'm a nursing major. I probably said that 15 times. We all kind of had friends that went to Ursuline, which is our sister school. And I knew a couple of people that went there that were nursing majors that were also kind of applying to 5 or 6 schools like I was. And once the decision deadline sort of came up, I was talking to my friend and they were talking about like applying to like 3 or 4 more schools just like last minute because like nursing is like competitive or whatever. And I don't know if it's my lackadaisical personality or whatever, my overconfidence, but I was like, I feel good about the places I've applied. Like they're very educated decisions. Like I think that I have a great chance of getting into all these schools that I applied to. And it was great. I wouldn't recommend doing 20 schools. I mean, we had a couple kids that did that, and it was just like every class they were on the Common App on their computer, every single class. So I think that my process was stressful, obviously, but way less stressful than it could have been. It was through educated decisions vetted by my counselor, my parents, and my support system.
Yeah, you did receive some direct advice from your counselor saying, don't apply to 3 more schools. You're good.
I did. Yes, I did. I was nervous. I was like, should I be applying to like 10 more schools right now? I think am I going to get in? And it was fine.
It's a very common feeling in like December of like, I applied early. I haven't heard anything yet. Should I apply to a lot more? And involve your counselor in that decision when you have it, but when that moment comes. I want to say a very huge thank you to all of our young alumni, Jack, Ben, Anthony, and Matt, who all joined us today. I hope this was helpful for all of our parents here. It was I really appreciate your perspective on the conversation, and thank you for everything. And with that, if you have any other questions, the guys put their email addresses in the chat. You can always follow up with one of your counselors. Thank you and have a great day.